everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. Today on the show, I'm going to be talking about a recent release that I am very excited about, and it's something that I've been waiting for to come out for a while. It finally came out, and that is this guy right here. This is the new 4K release of Bad Boys 1 and 2. And these are movies that I've always really enjoyed. I'm going to be showing you the box art and stuff in a second. But these are movies that I really, really love in terms of buddy cop genre. I think it's one of the best or two of the best movies of the genre. Michael Bay gets a lot of crap. I think he is really, really a phenomenal director of action films. Some of the Transformers movies, I gotta admit, really don't do anything for me. But these two movies that I'm going to be talking about today are two of my favorites, and hands down, two of my favorites of his films. This one right here, this is the new set here now. It comes with a little slip cover here. I'm discarding that for a moment, but the set has the first two, of course, the two films. Here's the front of it, and then there's the back. I'll show you that. There's the back. Has a picture, a still from the first film, which I really, really like. Probably my favorite scene in the first film. And then, of course, the top part here, you kind of hold it up, the top part here, the two movies come out, and you have the first film in its own little guy, and it's actually sideways, which I think is really neat. It opens up this way, and you can see the two discs inside. It's actually a 4-disc set, which I think is really nice. There's the first film on Blu-ray, which has been out for a while, and the 4K disc, and it has some information on the back. Special features and everything are on the Blu-ray disc, not on the 4K disc, which is too bad, but still, yet again, they want to give the movie as much room as possible so it can be in the best quality possible, which I'm fine with that. And this is Bad Boys 2, and the picture on the back. And of course, this also has the regular Blu-ray and the 4K disc as well. It also comes with a digital copy for both films, which is great, and it is a 4K digital copy, which is awesome. And on iTunes, if you watch it on iTunes, it's actually in Dolby Vision on iTunes, which it's not on the discs, which is an interesting thing. In this review, I'm going to be reviewing the 4K discs. I'm not going to be talking about the regular Blu-rays at all. The regular Blu-rays are the same ones that have been out for a while. They are very good, high-quality discs. Surprisingly, though, the new 4K discs are the way to go, and I'm going to be talking about that today. The first film I'm going to be talking about is, of course, the first Bad Boys film, and this disc here has a absolutely beautiful, clear picture on it. I mean, I remember when I bought this on DVD many years ago, and the picture on that I thought was great, but, you know, then the Blu-ray came out a few years ago, and that was a really big improvement, and I think the Blu-ray is actually mastered in 4K as well, but the new disc here is just, I mean, it is gorgeous. The picture on it is extremely clear. It has a fine layer of grain, which is barely noticeable, but I will say the picture is just absolutely stunning. The detail on the disc, I think, in both discs really, the detail is amazing on this new 4K disc. It is really, really incredible. The movie really has never looked this good, ever. Right from the opening shots of the film, you can really tell that they went all out on this transfer, and I'm glad that they did. It looks beautiful. The HDR10 adds so much color to this disc. It also adds a whole ton of black levels. The black detail on the disc is also really, really incredible. The nighttime scenes, and there are quite a few of them in the first film, that really were not that great looking on the DVD and were kind of passable on Blu-ray, now are basically perfect on this. I didn't really detect any crush or anything like that in any scene. It is just, it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous transfer in terms of picture and colors and everything. It's HDR10 only on the disc, but the HDR really does an amazing job to lend way more color and way more detail. And of course, the black levels, as I mentioned, are really, really incredible on this disc. They did a great job with it. It's a Sony disc, so I'm really not surprised by any of this, but I have to say, for the 4K format, this is a very, very, very well done disc, especially for a movie that was made in the early 90s. That is really impressive. The sound on it is kind of the only detriment of the disc. It is a Dolby Atmos track, which is nice, but to be honest with you, I really didn't notice that much of a step up from the Blu-ray. I think the Blu-ray had a DTS mix, if I'm not mistaken, and it was only 5.1. The Dolby Atmos track is a step up. I noticed that in terms of sound quality, it's a lot clearer, but in terms of immersive audio, it's really not there. There are some gunshots here and there that they really did a good job of making it a little more directional, but in terms of the immersive audio, the overheads and stuff, I really didn't notice much in terms of the overheads. And the bass and stuff in it is about the same as the old sound transfer. I really didn't notice anything really too crazy about the bass in this. But overall, I mean, it's Dolby Atmos. It's going to be probably the best you're going to get this older film. I think when the movie came out, I think it wasn't even in surround sound, if I'm not mistaken. I think it might have just been stereo. I could be wrong about that, but, you know, the disc overall is a phenomenal disc. And it's definitely worth picking up. Now, Bad Boys 2, on the other hand, is a wild, wild movie. Now, I really like the first one, but in a strange way, even though the second one is a little different, I actually enjoy the second one more than the first one. The second one really has some completely insane action sequences, and I love the way Michael Bay shot the second one. It is very flashy compared to the first one, and you can really tell he's just going all out with the camera movements and stuff in the second one. It's kind of dizzying at times, but I love the way it was shot, and I really get a kick out of that film. And I gotta tell you, the cinematography of Bad Boys 2 is a little different in terms of aspect ratio, in terms of the way the color palette of the film is. It's a very different looking film, and going directly from one to the other is kind of jarring, actually. It is a big, you know, distance between the first film and the second film. I think it was like over 10 years. So the fact that, you know, the cinematography is different is just something that's going to happen. I mean, cameras change over time. Michael Bay's style changed over time, and you can really tell in this one that they were going for a much more saturated color palette. There's actually, as far as I could see, there's way more grain in the second one. I don't know if that was done after the fact or if the fact that it was shot in a wider aspect ratio as well. The first film is 1:85 to 1. The second film is 2:39 to 1. So the bars on the top and bottom of the screen are going to be much larger on the second film, but it is a wider range. It's a wider frame. So, you know, just that alone is going to change the way the film looks. But I have to say, the color palette of the second one is very, very different. And it's way more natural looking, I think, in the first one. The first one definitely has a much more filmic look to it. And the second one is very much kind of like ultra-real kind of look. And it lends itself to the story as well because the second one is a much wilder film. But the color palette is very, very saturated, and you can tell right from the opening logos of this. The HDR, though, helps a lot with this. The HDR10 on the disc does provide a much brighter image than any other release of this film. And, of course, the color range now, because of the HDR10, is way different. And going back and forth between the old Blu-ray and the 4K, you're going to notice some scenes are actually almost look like they're lit differently, and that's because the black detail in this is also really phenomenal. The opening scene where there's a shootout at a KKK rally, which, again, still cracks me up, that scene looks unbelievably clearer on the new 4K disc than it did on any other prior release. And I've owned, I think, like 3 different releases of Bad Boys 2. I had the DVD when it first came out. I bought the Super Bit DVD. Who the hell remembers those? You remember those friggin' things? The Super Bit DVD when that came out, and then I bought it on Blu-ray a few years ago. And honestly, the Blu-ray was amazing, but this new 4K disc just puts it to shame. Unlike the first film, the Dolby Atmos in the second film is a massive improvement. I think it's just because of when the film was made. there was just better enhancements in audio at that time, so they had more to play with when they transferred it to the Dolby Atmos. Gunshots, the chase sequences, everything in the film definitely seems a little bit more immersive in the second film than it does in the first. Again, the bass levels for some reason are not really quite there, but the Dolby Atmos track on the second film is a major improvement versus the first film. I just thought it was like, it seemed like a different track to me when, as compared to the first film where it just seemed like they just slapped Dolby Atmos on it and called it a day. The first film was definitely a letdown in terms of sound. The second film was a lot better, I should say, a lot better. As I mentioned earlier, the night scenes in the second film, even though there's not as many of them in the second film, definitely improved due to the HDR. I have to say the black levels have never looked this good on that film. And yet again, just like the first film, details are way better. You get much clearer details. One thing that stuck out to me was there's a scene near the beginning of the film, and I remember this very clearly, that Will Smith shows up with a donut to give Martin Lawrence because he shot him in the butt at the beginning of the film. And you can actually, I never saw the fact that there's actually like these like leafing details. It almost looks like like a design on the donut. I never saw that before. Even on the Blu-ray, the DVDs, nothing. I've never seen that detail before, but I know it's a dumb little thing, but the detail on this disc, the clarity, it's that sharp on this new disc. I wouldn't call it like a disc you would show off your home theater to. It's not really one of those discs, but if you want to have a fun time, if you want to watch just a really, loud, crazy action film, this is the one to show off your home theater to, just because of just how wild the movie is and just how beautiful the picture is on this disc. It's awesome. Overall, I'd say Bad Boys 1 and 2, the box set for 4K, I picked it up for, I think, like $26, $27 at Walmart a few weeks, the week before last. And it's totally worth it. It is so totally worth the money. I highly recommend you buy it. It's definitely worth $30. The fact you're only paying $15 for 4 discs and the digital copy of both films, it's beyond a deal. Even the boxing itself is really pretty. The packaging is like gorgeous. I really don't have much in terms of complaints except for the fact that the sound of the first movie is really not that great. Everything else is phenomenal. Well worth your time and money. Go pick up Bad Boys 1 and 2 on 4K. If you enjoyed this review, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. Thank you for coming back to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Good night.